Media!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. I need to report on something today that I'm really not looking forward to. I've always said that one thing you'll always get from me on this channel is my clear, transparent honesty when it comes to politics. Today, I feel like this is one of those situations because even though I've said many times I plan to vote Conservative in the next election, I believe that Pierre Poilievre is the best of the candidates we have to choose from going into the next election. I've also said on many different occasions that we have to always hold their feet to the flame. We have to question them before and while they are in power, even afterwards, if anything arises. I think that with the mess that we've gotten ourselves into with Justin Trudeau over the last 10 years, it's only prudent that we have our backs up a bit, that we have the wall built in front of us for defense, because our trust has waned when it comes to government. This video gives me no pleasure to discuss, and I'm really not looking forward to it, to be honest. But again, I'm not here to sabotage the Conservatives. I'm not here to say that you shouldn't vote Conservative. But again, some red flags are being raised. I think we need to discuss them and talk about them. I want to bring you guys all towards this tweet that I'd put out today that followed up on one that the pleb put out. And again, I will reiterate, this is why I've said from day one, we have to question our next government, even if you like them. This raises a bunch of red flags. When we look at the pleb's tweet, to say I'm disappointed in this choice of candidate would be an understatement. Robert Batherson has supported the evil woke gender ideology up until now. He had he/him pronouns in his bio up until he made this announcement. Wokeness has no place in our party. I'm so pissed off. Take a look at Rob Batherson tweeting out here, or Batherson, sorry, saying, let's restore the promise of Canada. Honored to be the choice for change for the people of Halifax West in the next election. Again, Rob becoming Halifax West's new candidate. The big picture of him and Pierre next to themselves, and then pleb tweeting out receipts. Replying to Maxime Bernier, sorry my free speech is so triggering to you, Max. Do you need a safe space from pronouns? Or does freedom of expression under the charter only apply to those who agree with you? To each their own, pronouns or not. Again, I'm not condemning Rob for having that decision to post those things. People are allowed to, I guess, side with those who wish to identify a certain way. Again, I've always said, live your best life so long as you're not harming anybody. However, he takes a very liberal type approach up until now. Now the shoe's on the other foot, there's flip-flop. The pronouns are gone, according to the pleb. I question again, what's happening with the Conservative Party? More so when I look over to this tweet from Viva Frei. Viva Frei. I know I always say Viva Frei. What we have to understand here before I get into this tweet. This is in regards to Lauren Chen, Tenet Media, the Russian propaganda issue that's going out about disinformation. I hate that word to no extent. But what I'm going to say before we get into this is that I am still looking into the Tenet Media situation. I find that anytime Russians are brought into the conversation, it's merely just to distract. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's not part of the issue. From what my very blatant understanding of what's happened with Tenet Media is that Tenet Media took money from a Russian outfit. And I believe that when you're exchanging money within the United States, you have to file and declare what you're giving them, what it's for. And this outfit did not do that, which again raises flags. Now, until the investigation wraps up, none of this is to comment on what's happening with Lauren Chen. But again, question what the Conservatives are doing, because the Conservatives have always taken an approach that they stand behind our freedoms to decide, our freedoms to choose, our freedoms of expression. Viva tweeting out here, Canada's fallen. There's no difference between the so-called Conservative Party of Canada and the tyrannical Liberal Party. They are two wings of the same corrupt bird. Earlier this week, in the purest form of modern-day McCarthyism, you will ever see, Parliament is going after Lauren Chen, summoning her to testify on alleged Russian government allegedly using Tenet Media to spread Russian propaganda to undermine the West. Listen to the idiotic diatribes coming from so-called conservative Raquel Doncho and liberal tyrant Jen O'Connell. Again, Raquel's always been pretty based, to my understanding. I've reached out to her office multiple times to have her on the show. Again, sometimes there's scheduling conflicts, there's things that get in the way. I may still try to get Raquel on the show at some point to clarify what's going on here, to clarify the Conservative Party's position, because this is alarming. Apparently, Raquel and the Conservative Party have forgotten about what a bunch of lying scoundrels the Liberals are. Or maybe the Conservatives have been equal lying scoundrels the entire time. This is the absolute state of Canada, absolute madness. Edit, the hearing was earlier this week, not today. Before I get into this clip again, I'm not judging what's going on with Tenet Media. I don't want to stick my nose in that until, again, I have all the facts, until everything is out there in the open. But when it comes to these committees, when I listen to Raquel, when I listen to their stance, the Conservative stance on what is going on, it just like the plebs tweet, this raises some red flags. Take a listen.
You can understand that the Public Safety and National Security Committee of Canada is incredibly concerned that if there is a Canadian citizen such as yourself receiving, according to the indictment, $10 million and falsely misleading commentators of your platform about where that money is coming from, and the purpose of that commentary is to propagate Russian government positions that deliberately undermine the West. Do you have any concerns of that, of the moral authority of that?
For the reasons already given, I have no comment.
Mr. Chair, this is obviously quite frustrating. Ms. Chen has been called for this committee, and the allegations are incredibly serious that she took $10 million for her company from Russian agents, withheld the source of that funding to the commentators that she hired for Tenet Media with the purpose to proliferate Russian propaganda, which, as we know very well in this committee, Russia is an adversary to Canada looking to deliberately undermine this country, looking to see Canada weaken and fail. And the idea that a fellow Canadian, Ms. Chen, would take large amounts of money to undermine the Canadian interest, I take great personal and moral issue with that. Do you?
For the reasons already given, I have no comment.
Mr. Chair, I find it interesting. I didn't know who Ms. Chen was in advance of the U.S. indictment. Some of these kind of conspiracy theorist peddling accounts tend to be a dime a dozen. The real interesting factor, though, is who's paying for some of this disinformation. The witness has actually attacked trans kids, 2S LGBT community, women, men who stand up for women's equality. She suggested are on their periods and should eat a tub of ice cream. Doesn't seem to care about the ramifications of comments like this posted on the internet, attacking Ukrainians, Ukrainian sovereignty, and basically saying whatever she feels like without the consideration of implications to those people she attacks. I find it quite interesting that now, as she has an opportunity to defend some of these comments, perhaps it's the single lady's cat that's got her tongue, because she seems to be very opinionated when it comes to views that she wants to spew, but not how she's making money on spreading those views and getting those likes. So I think it is pretty interesting that those who believe in freedom until they face consequences for their own actions refuse to take responsibility for those actions and for not recognizing laws that exist in Canada and the US regarding sanctions. And that it's okay if an individual wants to make money off of sanctioned entities, but then when it comes time to answer for those things, doesn't seem to not be able to find words to speak. I find it incredibly disappointing, but also not surprised, if I'm being completely honest. So I'll give you, Ms. Chen, one last question or one last opportunity. How much money did you or your company receive from the Russian government, a Russian entity, a Russian sanctioned entity, to promote and spread the materials that you spread online?
So again, Lauren Chen responded with the same statement as before, that there is no comment. Again, when Jennifer O'Connell is speaking there, when you look at the tone, when you look at what's going on, again, I get the same tone from Raquel Dancho. Why are the Conservatives taking such a stance on giving in to distraction tools that the Liberals are usually providing when it comes to countries like Russia? Is there something behind their desk that they see that we don't know about? Again, I'm not commenting about Tenet Media. This is more about the stance that the Conservatives are taking. And I want to go back to something I said covering election night earlier this week in the US election. And that's that when you look at policy that's being put forward right now in the country, when you look at C-63, when you look at other ones like the infamous 293, I believe it is, that is harboring down on our ability to get food during another pandemic. We're going to go deeper into that one. But what you're seeing here is that the policies being put forward by government these days are no longer about what's best for Canadians or what's best for our habits or our lifestyles. It's now what's best for control. It's all about control. We need to control your food. We need to control what you consume. We need to control what you put in your body. We need to control where you can go, how long you can go there for, what hours you can be there for. We need to limit everything in your day-to-day lives. And we're going to tax you into the ground so that you can't afford to get your head above water. This is what we've seen after 10 years of Justin Trudeau. And again, when I see Conservatives bringing on people who share liberal values, again, going back to the plebs tweet, it raises a lot of red flags as to what are we to expect in Canada when it comes to the next party that's in charge of our country. Are these going to be representatives who actually are in the best interests of Canadians, trying to make the country better? Or is it going to be more of the same with just a few policies that maybe we get rid of, like the carbon tax or lower income tax, or a new tax being introduced to cover those taxes? This is why I'm saying that before we go into an election, before we go to a federal election, these are the questions we should be holding to the Conservatives and making them nervous about, that we want answers. We want an explanation as to why we should put them in charge of the country moving forward, and that when they behave in a certain way, again, it's so important that we continue to and let them know we're going to hold their feet to the flames when we see this kind of behavior. Again, maybe I'm jumping the gun. I don't think so. Let me know what you guys think down below. I guess the question of the day for you to fill out in the comments is, do you trust that the Conservative Party is going to be different? Is it going to be what many people are claiming it's going to be? Or do you think that people are going to have buyer's remorse when it comes time for Pierre Poilievre to be Prime Minister of Canada? Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, I take no pleasure in reporting on this, but I have to be transparent. I have to put it out there, and we do have to ask questions. That's the purpose of this channel. That's always going to be the purpose of this channel. Let me know what you guys think down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, hit your bell for notifications. Join me live tonight and every Friday here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming weekly show where I sit down with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe, and we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as some back and forth within our communities. It's great to see all of you outside of making these videos and hear what you have to say. As I've said a million times before, we have the greatest community on this entire platform, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you tonight and every Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.